The Galactic Council Chamber was a place where wars began and ended with words. Massive pillars of light stretched upward, shimmering with holograms of countless worlds. Representatives of dozens of species sat in their thrones, cloaked in the arrogance of empires that had lasted thousands of years. They had seen star systems rise and fall, entire civilizations ground into dust. That morning, the chamber was silent. At its center stood an alien emissary, cloaked in black, his voice a hollow echo. He had no army, no fleet, no banners. Only a message. "Attack the humans," he said, his eyes glowing like dying stars. "And your empire burns." The silence stretched into laughter. The council had seen such warnings before. Every fledgling race had some myth, some prophecy of destiny. The humans were no different, they thought. Their world was young, barely 100 years into interstellar travel. They had no colonies beyond a handful of dust rocks, no fleets beyond. A dozen aging ships. The Venar representative's scales glistening hissed with disdain. Burn? They cling to a single planet. Their fleets are toys. If they resist, we erase them. A roar of agreement followed. The Sholthari lords clicked their mandibles in approval, while the Draxan war chieftains pounded their fists against armored chests. The humans to them were nothing. An opportunity to expand, a resource to exploit. The emissary did not flinch. His eyes swept the chamber once more. "I have spoken," he whispered, and then he was gone. No one questioned how. He had entered the chamber without invitation. No one asked where he had come from. The council was too drunk on its own power to care. That was their first mistake. The invasion began 3 cycles later. Hundreds of ships descended upon Earth's orbit. The skies above the blue planet blazed with alien fire. The council expected surrender within hours. Humans would fall like so many before them, but the humans did not surrender. Their response was not desperation, it was precision. Hidden defense satellites ignited, hurling kinetic rods into orbiting ships with the force of miniature suns. Drones swarmed, carrying warheads so crude in appearance that the council laughed, until they detonated with energy that tore battlecruisers in half. The first fleet fell in a day. The council dismissed it as luck. They sent a second, then a third. Each time, humanity's defenses grew sharper, faster, deadlier. Their ships adapted between battles, as if their engineers lived inside. War itself. On the 4th campaign, the invaders encountered something new. From behind the moon emerged ships unlike any in council records, hulking behemoths of steel, bristling with cannons that spat lightning and fire. They bore names painted in bold letters: Arkansas, Yamato, Vengeance. Council commanders scoffed. The vessels looked ancient, patched together from rust and ruin. Yet when the battle began, those ships tore through fleets 10 times their size. They fought not with elegance, but with raw, unrelenting fury. Where a council ship would retreat, the human ships rammed forward, willing to break themselves if it meant taking the enemy with them. The stars ran red with fire. By the 5th year, whispers spread. Entire sectors had fallen silent. Council fleets sent against humanity never returned. Colonies once thought safe found themselves burning, not under alien banners, but under the mark of the humans. A white flag streaked with blood-red bars. The humans were not merely defending Earth anymore. They were striking back. The council called emergency meetings. "How?" demanded the Venar, his voice trembling with rage. "How do primitives build weapons that unmake fleets?" No one had an answer. The Sholthari proposed genocide. Burn Earth from orbit. Erase every human from existence. The council agreed. The largest armada in history was assembled, hundreds of thousands of ships, a fleet so vast that entire constellations dimmed when it passed. They descended upon Earth, and that was when the truth was revealed. The humans had not been confined to Earth. From the dark edges of space, from hidden stations buried within asteroid fields, from colonies thought dead centuries ago, human fleets emerged. Not dozens, not hundreds, but tens of thousands of warships, each more advanced than the last. The Council stared in disbelief. Humanity had been preparing for this war long before first contact, and their weapons. The Council had thought their own technology supreme. Yet the humans wielded weapons that defied physics, mass drivers that hurled projectiles faster than light, torpedoes that folded space upon detonation, swarms of AI drones that devoured ships like locusts. The human fleet did not fight for survival. They fought for annihilation. The great armada of the Council lasted 3 days. Then it was gone. Empires crumbled in the years that followed. The Vanar Dominion fell first, their throne world glassed from orbit in a single strike. The Shulthari, home hives followed, their insectoid cities drowned in fire. One by one, the proud lords of the galaxy were broken. It was not only humanity's weapons that doomed them, it was their nature. Where other species broke under loss, humans grew stronger. Where others retreated, humans adapted. Every defeat taught them. Every scar hardened them. Every death was fuel for vengeance. They were not like the others. They were forged in a world of storms, predators, and endless war. To them, the galaxy was not a terror. It was simply a larger battlefield. By the time the last Council world burned, the emissaries' words were remembered. Attack the humans, and your empire burns. It had not been a threat. It had been prophecy. The galaxy changed forever. The survivors whispered of Earth not as a world, but as a curse. To speak of humans was to speak of fire. Children of distant stars grew up fearing the day human fleets would come. And deep within the ruins of the old Council chamber, scorched and broken, a single message was left behind in ancient human script. It was painted in bold strokes of crimson. We warned you. Long before humanity's first starship breached the void, whispers had already begun. They spread from mining outposts at the edges of mapped space to the grand thrones of the oldest empires. Nobody knew their origin. Perhaps an ancient scout ship had glimpsed Earth, or maybe a civilization long extinct had left warnings carved into the stone of forgotten moons. But the words were always the same. Do not provoke Earth. At first, most laughed. A backwater planet circling an unremarkable star? A species barely crawling out of its atmosphere? The idea was absurd. Empires with fleets of 1,000 ships dismissed the notion as superstition, the way primitive peoples once feared shadows. And yet, the whisper endured. Generations passed. The warning remained, a quiet rumor tucked into archives, repeated by smugglers, remembered by scholars. But pride is a powerful poison. The Zirath Empire, swollen with arrogance, chose to ignore it. The Zirath were old, cruel, and vast. Their war fleets stretched across 50 systems, their slave worlds numbered in the thousands. To them, the humans were a curiosity, small, defiant, fragile. When Earth announced its first interstellar colonies, the Zirath saw opportunity. Strike them now, the Emperor decreed, his scaled hand clutching the arm of his throne, before they grow teeth. The court bowed, their laughter echoing like thunder. The whispers of, "Do not provoke Earth," were dismissed as ghost stories for children, and so the fleets were assembled. Yet before the first invasion fleet launched, a shadow appeared in the Zirath capital. A being cloaked in robes of midnight stood in the Emperor's hall. His face was obscured, his presence cold. None saw him arrive. None dared to stop him. His voice carried like a funeral bell. "Attack. The humans," he said, "and your empire burns." The court gasped. Guards raised weapons. But when they fired, the stranger was gone. The Emperor laughed bitterly. "A ghost," he declared. An old trickster. Nothing more. It was their first mistake. The first fleet descended upon Earth. Millions of tons of warships darkened the skies. The Zirath expected surrender. What they found was resistance. Human defense fleets rose to meet them. Not grand, not overwhelming, but relentless. Crude railguns shredded frigates. Nuclear weapons, archaic and brutal, detonated with terrifying effect. A battle that should have lasted hours, stretched into days. When the smoke cleared, Earth still stood. The Zirath lost ships, but pressed forward. More fleets came, burning human colonies, enslaving survivors. Entire cities were razed. They thought victory inevitable, but they did not understand what they had awakened. Humanity did not break. Every defeat became a lesson. Every loss became fuel. They reverse-engineered captured ships, turning enemy technology against its creators. They built fleets not for beauty, but for survival. Hulking behemoths of steel, bristling with weapons, their hulls scarred yet unyielding, and when humanity struck back, the galaxy shuddered. The Zirath fleet stationed at Varnus Outpost was the first to vanish. Thousands of ships, gone in a single night. Wreckage drifted silently, cut apart with surgical precision. Survivors whispered of shadows moving through the dark, ships that did not appear on sensors until it was too late. Humans had learned. They had adapted, and they were hunting. By the third year, the whispers returned. Smugglers spoke of entire Zirath colonies burned to ash. Traders swore they had seen human fleets, massive and endless, emerging from hidden bases. The Council of Allied Empires demanded answers. The Zirath Emperor snarled at their cowardice. "They are vermin. We will crush them." But even he felt unease. For in his dreams, he heard the ghost's voice again. "Your empire burns." The war escalated. Humanity unleashed weapons the galaxy had never seen, planets shattered beneath. Kinetic strikes, asteroids hurled at relativistic speeds, swarms of drones, each no larger than a fist, burrowed into warships and tore them apart from within. Entire fleets were trapped when humans collapsed stars into artificial black holes, erasing armadas in a single breath. The Zirath fought with fury, but they faced something they had never known, an enemy that refused to bow, that grew stronger with every strike. The humans fought like a species born from chaos itself. And perhaps they were. The 6th year broke the Zirath. Their throne world burned. The skies above it filled with human ships, their guns blazing like the wrath of gods. The Emperor watched from his palace as fire rained from the heavens, his fleets scattered, his armies in retreat. On the final night, as his capital crumbled, he saw the ghost again, standing at the foot of his throne. The figure's eyes glowed like dying suns. "I warned you," he said softly. The Emperor tried to speak, but no words came. The ghost vanished as fire consumed the palace. The Zirath Empire was no more. The galaxy was never the same. The whispers became law. Do not provoke. Earth. No longer superstition, it was truth carved in fire. The ruins of Zirath world stood as monuments to arrogance. Children of distant stars grew up hearing the story, how one empire ignored the warning, and in doing so, unleashed their own destruction. And humanity? They did not claim the throne of the galaxy. They did not crown themselves conquerors. They rebuilt quietly, relentlessly. Their fleets withdrew into the shadows, watching, waiting. But the warning remained, etched into every mind that remembered the fall of the Zirath. Attack. The humans and your empire burns. It was not prophecy, it was history, and it would never be forgotten. The Vanar Dominion had ruled the stars for millennia. Their fleets patrolled every trade route, their armies crushed every rebellion, and their chains bound a dozen species in servitude. To speak against the Dominion was to invite annihilation. To resist was to be erased. World after world bent the knee. None dared to fight until humans arrived. At first, the Dominion saw them as nothing remarkable, a species from an unimportant blue world expanding with naive ambition. Their ships were crude, their colonies scattered, their weapons outdated. The Dominion had broken greater foes with less effort. But before the invasion began, a warning came. It arrived not from emissaries or diplomats, but from a slave, an old man, his body scarred by decades under Vanar whips, stood in the throne hall of the Dominion. He had once been freed by humans, saved from a forgotten mining world, only to return when captured again. The guards laughed as he shouted, but the hall grew silent when his voice boomed with a strength no lash could break. "Attack the humans," he said, "and your empire burns." The Vanar nobles roared in laughter. The emperor leaned forward, fangs glinting, and hissed, "A broken slave dares to threaten us?" The old man only smiled, the way one who has seen truth smiles at arrogance. "They are not like the others. They will not bow. Strike them, and you will awaken fire." He was dragged away in chains, executed within the hour. The court forgot his words. That was their first mistake. The first Vanar fleet descended upon a human colony called Atlas. The plan was simple: bombard, enslave, occupy. The Dominion had repeated it across 100 worlds, but Atlas did not fall in silence. The humans fought back. Civilian ships rammed war cruisers. Colonists armed with scavenged weapons held the ground for weeks, even when the city was finally. Ash and the survivors in chains, the Vanar commanders felt unease, for the prisoners did not weep. They stared with burning eyes, whispering words that chilled even hardened soldiers. "You'll regret this." Soon more fleets marched, more human worlds were attacked. Colonies fell, but each time, the cost grew higher. Vanar fleets that once swept aside opposition like dust now returned crippled or did not return at all. Then the uprisings began. Across Dominion space, enslaved species began to resist. Small acts at first, supply lines cut, weapons stolen, whispers of rebellion. The spark spread like wildfire, and when human raiders appeared, striking Vanar fleets with surgical precision, those sparks became flames. For the first time in centuries, slaves had an ally, one that did not abandon them, one that taught them how to fight. The humans were not fighting to survive. They were fighting to destroy. Their fleets grew in the shadows, warships built from scavenged wreckage, hidden in asteroid belts forged in secret shipyards. They did not match the Dominion in numbers, but they did not need to. Every battle they chose was deliberate. Every strike bled the Dominion. Vanar warlords began to fear the name of human ships, nemesis, deliverance, freedom's spear. They fought like predators unleashed, willing to burn themselves out if it meant dragging their enemy down with them. The humans were not only freeing themselves, they were breaking chains for all. By the 5th year, rebellion engulfed half the Dominion. The Vanar responded with terror. They burned entire slave worlds, slaughtered millions to instill fear. Yet the fear turned to rage. Enslaved armies turned their weapons against their masters. The Dominion, for the first time in living memory, was losing control, and at the heart of it all was humanity. The Vanar did not understand. Other species fought with desperation, hoping for survival, but humans fought with something else: defiance, an unyielding refusal to bend. They had suffered their own wars, their own tyrants, their own scars long before the stars knew their name. They carried that history with them like a blade. Every act of cruelty only hardened them. Every massacre only fueled their vengeance. The final blow came when the human fleet appeared above Vanar Prime itself. No one had believed it possible. The Dominion's throne world was the most fortified system in the galaxy, guarded by endless fleets, its skies filled with defense stations. Yet somehow, impossibly, the humans had breached it. The Emperor watched from his throne as alarms blared, as flames filled the skies. He roared commands, but his fleets collapsed. Not because the humans outnumbered them, they did not, but because half the Dominion's slaves turned their guns inward. The chains broke all at once. Vanar Prime burned. In the ruins of the throne palace, the old slave's words were remembered. Some swore they saw him standing amid the fire, unchained, watching as the Dominion collapsed. Perhaps it was only a vision, a memory, or a ghost. But his warning had been true. Attack the humans, and your empire burns. The galaxy was remade in the aftermath. Where once the Dominion's flag flew, now a dozen free species stood. They looked not to the humans as conquerors but as allies, the ones who had shown that no empire was unbreakable, no master eternal. But fear lingered too, for the humans had not stopped at vengeance. They had proven what they were capable of, what they would become if threatened again. They had shown that chains, once laid upon them, would be broken with fire. Other empires watched in silence, their hearts filled with dread. The warning echoed through every council, every throne, every war room. Attack the humans, and your empire burns. It was no longer a whisper. It was law, written in the ashes of the Dominion. Humanity returned to its colonies, scarred but unbroken, carrying its freed allies with it. They did not claim dominion. They did not demand tribute. They simply built, prepared, and watched. The galaxy knew now humanity was not to be chained, for chains placed upon them would not only break, they would shatter the empire that forged them.